Ethan Morrison stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his corner office on the 40th floor, watching the bustling city below. At 32, he'd built Novatech Solutions from a small startup in his garage to one of the most innovative software companies in the country. The morning sun cast long shadows across his mahogany desk, where stacks of contracts and proposals awaited his signature. What most people didn't know was that behind every successful decision, every perfectly timed meeting, and every crisis averted, stood one person who made it all possible. Sophia Chen had been with Novatech for 5 years, starting as a junior assistant and working her way up to become Ethan's right hand. She wasn't just an assistant. She was the invisible force that kept the entire operation running smoothly. Sophia arrived at the office every morning at 6:30 a.m., 2 hours before Ethan, to review the day's schedule, prepare briefing documents, and handle any overnight emergencies. Her desk sat just outside Ethan's office, strategically positioned to manage the constant flow of executives' clients, the crises that defined corporate life. The presentation that changed. Everything this particular Tuesday started like any other. But it would end with consequences that neither Ethan nor Sophia could have imagined. The company was preparing for its biggest presentation ever, pitched to secure a $50 million contract with Global Corp Industries. This deal would catapult Novatech into the league of major tech companies and establish them as a serious competitor. In the enterprise software market, Sophia had spent weeks coordinating with every department, ensuring that the financial projections were accurate, the technical demonstrations were flawless, and the presentation materials were perfect. She had personally verified every number, cross-referenced every claim, and prepared backup plans for potential questions. The night before the presentation, Ethan decided to make last-minute changes to the financial projections. He wanted the numbers to appear more conservative, thinking it would make Novatech seem more reliable to the traditional executives at Global Corp. Working alone in his office until 2 a.m., he modified several key figures without consulting Sophia or the finance department. The next morning, Sophia arrived to find the updated presentation on her desk with a note from Ethan asking her to review it one final time. She quickly scanned through the documents, trusting that Ethan's changes were minor tweaks. The presentation was scheduled to begin in just 3 hours. Leaving little time for detailed analysis, the meeting from Healtha Global Corp executives arrived precisely at 10 a.m. Led by their stern-faced CEO, Margaret Walsh, known throughout the industry for her sharp questions and zero tolerance for unprepared presentations. The conference room filled with tension as 12 executives took their seats around the polished table. Ethan began the presentation with confidence, walking through Novatech's company history, technical capabilities, and market position. Everything went smoothly until he reached the financial projections slide. As he presented the numbers, Margaret Walsh's expression grew increasingly skeptical. "Mr. Morrison," she interrupted, her voice cutting through the room like ice, "these revenue projections don't align with your previous quarterly reports. According to our research, your actual growth rate is 15% higher than what you're showing here. Are you deliberately understating your performance?" Ethan felt his stomach drop. He glanced at the screen, seeing the numbers he had changed the night before, but suddenly they seemed wrong. Very wrong. Let me check that for you," he stammered, looking toward Sophia for help. Sophia quickly pulled up her tablet, cross-referencing the presentation with the original financial data. Her face went pale as she realized what had happened. The numbers Ethan had modified were not just conservative. They were contradictory to previously submitted documents and made Novatech look either incompetent or dishonest. Sophia began diplomatically, "If I may clarify the discrepancy," but Ethan, panicking and embarrassed, cut her off sharply. "Sophia, not now. You were supposed to review these numbers?" His voice carried an edge of accusation that made everyone in the room uncomfortable. The rest of the presentation crumbled. Margaret Walsh and her team exchanged glances that clearly communicated their loss of confidence in Novatech's professionalism. When they left 30 minutes later, their polite but cold goodbyes made it clear that the deal was dead. The explosion, as soon as the conference room door closed behind the Global Corp executives, Ethan exploded. The stress of 5 years of building the company, the pressure of this crucial deal, and the humiliation of failing in front of industry leaders all combined into a perfect storm of misplaced anger. "How could you let this happen?" he demanded, his voice echoing off the conference room walls. "You had one job, Sophia. One job. Make sure everything was perfect for this presentation." Sophia stood frozen, her tablet still in her hands, the weight of the unfair accusation hitting her like a physical blow. "Ethan, you changed those numbers last night without telling me. I didn't have time to properly review. Don't blame me for your failure," Ethan interrupted, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "I trusted you to catch any problems. That's what I pay you for." Rachel Stevens, the HR director, shifted uncomfortably in her chair. She had witnessed the entire presentation and knew exactly what had happened, but company protocol required her to remain neutral in executive disputes. 5 years, Sophia said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. 5 years of 14-hour days of fixing your mistakes, of making you look good, and this is how you repay me? Ethan was too caught up in his anger to hear the pain in her voice. "If you can't handle the pressure, maybe you don't belong here. Clear out your desk. You're fired." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Sophia's eyes filled with tears, but she refused to let them fall in front of him. With dignity that impressed everyone present, she gathered her materials and walked toward the door. "You'll regret this decision, Ethan," she said without turning around. "Sooner than you think." The immediate aftermath within hours of Sophia's departure, the cracks in Novatech's operations began to show. Ethan tried to access the client database to follow up on other potential deals, only to discover that Sophia had been the sole keeper of most client relationship details. Her intricate system of notes, preferences, and contact histories was stored in her personal files, which it had automatically locked when her access was terminated. David Kim, the chief technology officer, appeared in Ethan's office looking frazzled. "Where's Sophia?" "The servers are showing some unusual activity and she's the only one who knows the full security protocol. Sophia no longer works here," Ethan replied tersely, still too proud to admit his mistake. David's face went white. "Ethan, she designed our entire backup system. She's the only one with the master passwords for emergency situations." As if summoned by their conversation, Ethan's phone began ringing incessantly. 3 major clients were calling with urgent issues. 2 vendor payments had been delayed because Sophia wasn't there to authorize them. And a crucial presentation for the next day was missing key components that only Sophia knew how to access. "Rachel." Stevens knocked on his door, her expression grave. "Ethan, we need to talk. About Sophia, about what happened in that meeting, and about the legal implications of wrongful termination." But Ethan was too stubborn to admit his error. "Find someone else to handle her responsibilities. Promote someone from within. We'll manage without her." What he didn't know was that Sophia's departure had already been noticed by Novatech's biggest competitor. Julian Pierce, CEO of TechVantage Corp., had been trying to find a way to infiltrate Novatech's operations for months. When his sources told him that the company's most knowledgeable employee had just been fired under suspicious circumstances, he saw an opportunity. The rival's move, Julian Pierce, was everything Ethan aspired to be: older, more experienced, and ruthlessly efficient. His company, TechVantage Corp., had been nipping at Novatech's heels for years, always one step behind in innovation but superior in business strategy. When he learned about Sophia's sudden departure, he immediately instructed his HR team to reach out to her. The call came to Sophia's personal phone at 8 p.m. Just as she was sitting in her apartment, still processing the day's events. "Miss Chen, this is Patricia Wong from TechVantage Corp. Mr. Pierce would like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss an exciting opportunity." Sophia stared at her phone in disbelief. TechVantage was Novatech's primary competitor, and she knew that joining them would be seen as the ultimate betrayal by Ethan. But as she looked around her apartment, filled with work she had brought home over the years, presentations she had perfected on weekends, strategic plans she had developed during her personal time, she realized that her loyalty had been severely misplaced. The next morning, Sophia found herself in Julian Pierce's pristine office, listening to an offer that would change everything. "I've been watching your work from afar," Julian said, his tone respectful and professional. "Everyone in the industry knows that you're the real strategic mind behind Novatech's success." He offered her a position as Director of Strategic Operations. salary that was 40% higher than what she had been making. And most importantly, the recognition and respect she had never received at Novatech. I want to build something with you. Sophia, not just hire you to support someone else's vision, it's the point of no return. While Sophia was signing her new contract at TechVantage, Novatech was falling apart. 3 more clients had called to complain about delayed responses to their inquiries. The company's carefully maintained social media presence had gone silent because Sophia had been managing it personally. Worst of all, 2 key employees had submitted their resignations, citing concerns about company stability and leadership. Ethan sat in his office as the sun set, surrounded by problems he didn't know how to solve. For the first time since starting the company, he felt completely overwhelmed. Every system, every process, every relationship that he had taken for granted had been touched by Sophia's invisible hand. His computer chimed with a news alert that made his blood run cold. TechVantage Corp announces major strategic hire, former Novatech executive to lead new initiative. The article included a photo of Sophia shaking hands with Julian Pierce, both of them smiling confidently. The article went on to detail Sophia's impressive track record and hinted at major announcements coming from TechVantage in the following weeks. Industry analysts were already speculating about what insider knowledge she might bring to Novatech's biggest competitor. Rachel Stevens appeared in his doorway, holding a tablet with several resignation letters queued up for his review. Ethan, we need to discuss damage control. Staff is nervous. Clients are asking questions. And now with Sophia joining TechVantage, for the first time since the disastrous presentation, Ethan felt the full weight of his mistake. He had not just fired an employee. He had handed his company's most valuable asset to his biggest rival. The empire he had spent 5 years building was beginning to crumble. And he was finally beginning to understand that Sophia Chen had been the foundation holding it all together. As night fell over the city, Ethan remained alone in his office. Staring at the empty desk outside his door where Sophia used to sit, the silence was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of traffic and the occasional ping of urgent emails. He no longer had anyone capable of handling properly. The perfect storm was just beginning, and Ethan Morrison was about to learn the hardest lesson of his career. Some mistakes cannot be undone, and some people cannot be replaced. 3 weeks after Sophia's departure, Novatech's situation had deteriorated from bad to catastrophic. Ethan arrived at his office each morning to find new problems that seemed to multiply overnight. Client contracts were being delayed because crucial details were missing. Vendor relationships were strained due to payment processing errors. The company's once stellar reputation was beginning to show cracks. What, Ethan didn't know, was that his problems were about to get much worse. Julian Pierce had not hired Sophia just for her expertise. He had a more sinister plan in mind. During her first week at TechVantage, he had carefully extracted every piece of information she possessed about Novatech's operations, client relationships, and strategic plans. Sophia, still hurt and angry from her dismissal, had been more forthcoming than she should have been. She detailed Novatech's pricing strategies, revealed which clients were considering contract renewals, and even shared insights about Ethan's management style and decision-making patterns. What she thought was simply sharing her professional experience was actually corporate espionage of the highest order. Julian Pierce smiled as he reviewed the intelligence Sophia had unknowingly provided. Perfect, he murmured to himself, already formulating a plan to systematically dismantle Novatech's client base. He began reaching out to Novatech's biggest clients, offering them better deals and highlighting every weakness in their current service provider. The mysterious system failures. David Kim burst into Ethan's office on a Thursday morning, his usually calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. Ethan, we have a serious problem. Our main servers crashed last night, and all our backup systems failed simultaneously. This isn't a coincidence. Ethan looked up from the stack of resignation letters he had been reviewing. In the 3 weeks since Sophia's departure, 7 employees had quit, including 2 department heads. What do you mean it's not a coincidence? Someone with intimate knowledge of our systems deliberately triggered these failures. They knew exactly which vulnerabilities to exploit. David pulled up diagnostic reports on his laptop. The attack was sophisticated and targeted. Whoever did this knows our infrastructure better than anyone except Sophia. Ethan finished, the realization hitting him like a punch to the gut. But David shook his head. That's what's strange. The attack patterns don't match Sophia's style. She always believed in elegant solutions, but this was brute force and destructive. Someone else is behind this. Someone who wanted to make it look like Sophia was involved. The whistleblower emerges as Novatech struggled with technical failures and client defections. An unexpected ally emerged from the shadows. Marcus Bell had been a mid-level programmer at Novatech until 6 months ago when he had been quietly let go during a routine downsizing. Unlike other former employees, Marcus harbored no ill will toward the company. In fact, he had been watching the recent developments with growing concern. Marcus had always respected Sophia's integrity and professionalism. Ease. When he learned about her dismissal and subsequent hiring by TechVantage, something didn't sit right with him. Using his connections in the tech industry, he began investigating unusual network activity and discovered something disturbing. Late one evening, Marcus called Ethan directly. "Mr. Morrison, this is Marcus Bell. I used to work in your programming department. I have information about what's really happening to your company." Ethan, exhausted from weeks of crisis management, was initially skeptical. "Marcus, if this is about getting your job back, it's not about me," Marcus interrupted. "It's about Julian Pierce and what he's doing to frame Sophia for corporate sabotage." You need to listen to me." Marcus explained that he had traced the cyber attacks on Novatech systems to a sophisticated hacking operation run by TechVantage. Julian Pierce had hired a team of black hat hackers to infiltrate Novatech's infrastructure, using inside information to make the attacks appear as though they came from someone with intimate knowledge of the company's systems. "He's using Sophia as a scapegoat," Marcus continued. "Every attack is designed to make you think she's getting revenge for being fired, but she's not involved. Pierce is manipulating both of you." The journalist's investigation while Marcus was sharing his discoveries with Ethan. Investigative journalist Linda Foster was conducting her own research into TechVantage's recent aggressive expansion. Linda had built her career exposing corporate corruption and had developed a network of sources throughout the tech industry. When she noticed the pattern of companies that had recently switched from Novatech to TechVantage, she became suspicious. The timing was too convenient, the client defections too systematic. She began digging deeper into Julian Pierce's business practices and discovered a troubling pattern of acquisitions that had been preceded by mysterious technical failures. Target companies. Linda's investigation revealed that Pierce had used similar tactics. Against 3 other companies over the past 2 years, he would identify a key employee at a target company, wait for an opportunity to recruit them, and then use their inside knowledge to systematically destroy their former employer. Once the target company was weakened sufficiently, he would either acquire it at a fraction of its value or simply absorb its client base. She also discovered that Pierce had a team of corporate spies who specialized in creating fake evidence of employee misconduct. Sophia Chen was just the latest victim in a carefully orchestrated campaign of corporate warfare. The evidence mounts Linda. Foster contacted Ethan after completing her preliminary investigation. "Mr. Morrison, I'm working on a story about corporate espionage in the tech industry, and I believe your company has been targeted by Julian Pierce." She shared her findings with Ethan, including financial records showing payments from TechVantage to various hacking groups, communication logs revealing the coordinated timing of client defections, and testimony from former TechVantage employees who had witnessed Pierce's unethical practices. Meanwhile, Marcus Bell had been working with David Kim to trace the technical attacks on Novatech systems. They discovered that the hackers had left digital fingerprints pointing to Sophia's old access codes, but closer examination revealed that these fingerprints had been artificially planted. The real source of the attacks was a server farm registered to a shell company owned by TechVantage. "This is incredibly sophisticated," David explained to Ethan as they reviewed the evidence. "Pierce didn't just steal Sophia from us. He's been planning this attack for months. The cyber attacks, the client defections, even the timing of Sophia's dismissal, it's all part of a coordinated strategy." At TechVantage, Sophia was beginning to sense that something was wrong. Julian Pierce's initial charm and professionalism had gradually given way to increasingly demanding requests for information about Novatech. What had started as casual questions about her former workplace had evolved into detailed interrogations about client vulnerabilities and system weaknesses. The breaking point came when Pierce asked her to provide detailed blueprints of Novatech's security infrastructure for competitive analysis, he explained smoothly. But Sophia's instincts told her otherwise. That evening, she conducted her own investigation into TechVantage's recent client acquisitions. What she discovered made her stomach turn. Every new client they had gained in the past month had previously been with Novatech. The timing of their defections aligned perfectly with her first week at TechVantage, when she had been sharing information about Novatech's operations. She realized that Julian Pierce had manipulated her grief and anger over her dismissal to turn her into an unwitting accomplice in corporate espionage. Every piece of information she had shared had been weaponized against her former colleagues and the company she had once loved. The confrontation. Sophia confronted Julian Pierce the next morning in his office. "You used me," she said, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "Everything you asked me about Novatech, you used it to attack them." Pierce didn't bother denying it. "Business is war, Sophia. I saw an opportunity and I took it. You were hurt and angry, which made you the perfect asset." "Those are my friends you're destroying," Sophia replied, thinking of David Kim, Rachel Stevens, and even Ethan, despite everything that had happened between them. "Your former friends," Pierce corrected. "They fired you, remember? They treated you like garbage after 5 years of loyal service. I gave you the respect and compensation you deserved." But Sophia could see through his manipulation now. "Don't respect me. You're using me just like Ethan did, only you're better at hiding it." Pierce's expression hardened. "You signed a non-disclosure agreement, Sophia. If you share any information about TechVantage's operations, I'll destroy your career and sue you for everything you're worth." The plan for redemption that evening? Sophia made a decision that would change everything. She called Ethan's personal number, knowing that he probably wouldn't answer. To her surprise, he picked up on the second ring. "Sophia?" His voice was tired and defeated, completely different from the confident CEO she remembered. "Ethan, we need to talk. Julian Pierce has been using me to attack Novatech, and I think I know how to stop him." They met at a quiet coffee shop downtown, both of them nervous and uncertain. The conversation was awkward at first, with both carrying the weight of their last encounter. But as Sophia explained Pierce's manipulation and provided evidence of the coordinated attacks, Ethan began to understand the full scope of what had happened. "I'm sorry," he said finally, the words carrying the weight of weeks of regret. "I was wrong to fire you. I was embarrassed and angry, and I took it out on you, instead of taking responsibility for my own mistakes." Sophia nodded, accepting his apology, but not ready to forget. "We both made mistakes, Ethan, but right now we need to focus on stopping Pierce before he destroys everything you've built." They were joined by Marcus Bell and David Kim, who brought additional evidence of TechVantage's illegal activities. Linda Foster also arrived, explaining that she was ready to publish her exposé, but wanted to give them a chance to take action first. "Pierce thinks he's won," Sophia explained. "He believes he has complete control over me, and that Novatech is too weakened to fight back. That's going to be his downfall." The plan they developed was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its potential impact. Sophia would return to TechVantage and pretend to be unaware of Pierce's manipulation, while secretly gathering evidence of his illegal activities. Meanwhile, Marcus and David would work to trace the cyber attacks back to their source, creating an irrefutable chain of evidence. Linda Foster would coordinate with law enforcement, ensuring that when they moved against Pierce, it would be with the full support of federal cybercrime investigators. The stakes were enormous. If they failed, Pierce would likely destroy any remaining evidence and potentially frame Sophia for corporate espionage. Sophia returned to TechVantage the next morning, acting as though nothing had changed. Pierce, confident in his control over the situation, continued to demand more sensitive information about Novatech's operations. What he didn't know was that Sophia was now recording every conversation and documenting every illegal request. "I need you to find out about Novatech's upcoming merger discussions," Pierce instructed during their morning meeting. "I have it on good authority that they're trying to partner with Global Corp to recover from their recent losses." Sophia nodded dutifully while her phone discreetly recorded the conversation. "I'll see what I can find out," she replied, knowing that she was gathering evidence that would soon bring down Pierce's entire operation, the technical breakthrough, while Sophia worked undercover at TechVantage. Marcus and David made a crucial breakthrough in tracing the cyber attacks. They discovered that Pierce's hackers had made a critical error. They had failed to completely mask their digital signatures when planting false evidence in Novatech systems. "Look at this, David," explained to Ethan as they reviewed the forensic analysis. "The timestamp on this planted evidence shows it was created 3 minutes before Sophia's access codes were supposedly used. It's impossible for her to have used codes that were created after the fact." Marcus had gone even further, infiltrating the hacker group's communication channels and discovering detailed instructions from TechVantage executives about which systems to target and how to make the attacks appear to come from inside Novatech. "We have them," Marcus announced during an emergency meeting in Ethan's office. Pierce documented everything, thinking he was covering his tracks. But his own paranoia about maintaining control created a paper trail that proves everything. Revelation: Linda Foster's investigation had expanded beyond TechVantage to reveal a broader pattern of corporate espionage affecting multiple companies across the tech industry. She discovered that Pierce had been running this scheme for years, systematically destroying competitors and absorbing their market share through illegal means. Her contacts at the FBI's cybercrime division were already building a case against Pierce based on her preliminary findings. When she shared the evidence that Sophia, Marcus, and David had gathered, the case became airtight. "Lince is bigger than just Novatech," Linda explained during a meeting with the team. "Pierce has been doing this to companies across the country. Your case could be the key to bringing down the entire operation." The FBI agents assigned to the case were particularly interested in the real-time evidence that Sophia was gathering at TechVantage. Her recordings and documentation provided unprecedented insight into how corporate espionage operations functioned at the highest levels. The trap is set. The final phase of their plan required perfect timing and nerves of steel. Sophia would arrange for Pierce to incriminate himself in front of hidden FBI surveillance, while simultaneously providing him with false information that would expose the full extent of his operations. She told Pierce that she had discovered Novatech was planning a major announcement that would restore investor confidence and potentially save the company. "They're about to sign a partnership with a European tech giant," she lied convincingly. If TechVantage could disrupt this announcement, it would be the final blow. Pierce took the bait completely, instructing his team of hackers to prepare for a massive cyber attack timed to coincide with Novatech's supposed announcement. What he didn't know was that FBI agents were monitoring all of TechVantage's communications and would be ready to arrest the entire operation as soon as they acted. The downfall, the trap, was sprung on a Tuesday morning during what Pierce thought would be his final victory over Novatech. As his hackers launched their attack against the fabricated announcement, FBI agents simultaneously raided TechVantage's offices and the hackers' locations across 3 states. Pierce was arrested in his office while giving instructions for the cyber attack, with Sophia's recordings playing as evidence of his criminal intent. The look of betrayal and rage on his face when he realized that Sophia had outmaneuvered him was captured by news cameras that had been tipped off by Linda Foster. "You think you've won?" Pierce snarled as he was led away in handcuffs. "But you've destroyed your own career. No one will ever trust you again." But Sophia stood tall, surrounded by FBI agents and legal vindication. "I'd rather have a clear conscience than a successful career built on lies," she replied calmly. The aftermath. In reconciliation, the arrest of Julian Pierce and the exposure of his corporate espionage ring made national headlines. Linda Foster's comprehensive report detailed how TechVantage had systematically destroyed competitors through illegal means, and how Sophia Chen had risked everything to bring the operation to justice. The revelation completely vindicated Novatech, and Sophia, while simultaneously destroying TechVantage's reputation and business operations. Within weeks, most of TechVantage's clients had terminated their contracts. The company was facing bankruptcy and multiple lawsuits. For Novatech, Pierce's downfall meant the return of lost clients who now understood that their defection had been based on artificially created problems. The Company's reputation was not only restored but enhanced by the dramatic story of corporate espionage and heroic whistleblowing. The new partnership Ethan approached Sophia a week after Pierce's arrest, this time with humility and genuine respect. "I want you to come back to Novatech," he said, "but not as my assistant. I want you to be my partner." He offered her a position as Chief Operating Officer, with equity in the company, an equal say in all major decisions. "I've learned that I can't run this company alone," he admitted. "I need someone who understands the business as well as I do, someone who can challenge my decisions and keep me grounded." Sophia considered the offer carefully. The past month had shown her that she was capable of much more than she had ever imagined. She had outmaneuvered a sophisticated criminal operation, earned the respect of federal investigators, and proven her value beyond any doubt. "I'll accept," she said finally, "but with conditions. We're partners in every sense of the word. Equal pay, equal authority, and equal respect. And if you ever humiliate me in front of clients again, I walk away permanently." Ethan extended his hand with a genuine smile. "Partners," he agreed. The transformation, the new partnership between Ethan and Sophia transformed Novatech into something stronger than it had ever been before. Sophia's operational expertise combined with Ethan's vision and leadership created a dynamic that impressed clients, employees, and competitors alike. They implemented new systems that prevented any single person from having too much control over critical operations, while also ensuring that everyone's contributions were properly recognized and valued. The company culture became more collaborative and transparent. With regular feedback sessions and open communication channels, Marcus Bell was hired back as Director of Cybersecurity, tasked with preventing future infiltration attempts. David Kim was promoted to Chief Technology Officer with expanded responsibilities. Rachel Stevens implemented new HR policies that protected employees from wrongful termination and workplace harassment. The global recognition 6 months after Pierce's arrest, Novatech won the contract with Global Corp that had started the entire crisis. Margaret Walsh, impressed by the company's resilience and transformation, personally called to congratulate Ethan and Sophia on their partnership. "I've never seen a company recover from adversity so completely," she said during the contract signing ceremony. "Your ability to turn a crisis into an opportunity shows exactly the kind of leadership and innovation we want to partner with." The story of Novatech's transformation became a case study in business schools and corporate leadership programs. Ethan and Sophia were invited to speak at conferences around the world, sharing their experience of how trust, partnership, and ethical leadership could overcome even the most sophisticated attacks. The personal growth beyond the professional success, both Ethan and Sophia had grown tremendously as individuals. Ethan learned to set aside his ego and truly collaborate with others, while Sophia discovered her own strength and leadership capabilities. Their partnership became a model for how workplace relationships could be both productive and mutually respectful. The crisis had taught them that success was not about individual achievement, but about building something sustainable together. They had learned to trust each other completely, communicate honestly, even when it was difficult, and support each other through challenges. The complete resolution as Novatech continued to grow and expand internationally. Ethan and Sophia often reflected on the events that had brought them together as true partners. What had started as a devastating mistake had ultimately led to a stronger company, deeper relationships, and personal growth that neither of them could have achieved alone. Julian Pierce, meanwhile, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for corporate espionage, computer fraud, and racketeering. His downfall served as a warning to other executives who might consider using illegal means to gain competitive advantages. The story became legendary in the business world, not just as a tale of corporate espionage and justice, but as proof that ethical leadership and genuine partnership could triumph over manipulation and greed. Ethan Morrison and Sophia Chen had not only saved their company, they had created something far better than what they had lost. Their partnership continued to thrive, built on a foundation of mutual respect, shared responsibility, and the hard-earned wisdom that the strongest businesses are built on trust, integrity, and the recognition that true success comes from lifting others up rather than tearing them down. The end.